Hello, welcome to Bob's Dungeon. My name's Bob, I'll be your host. One of the fun parts about being a game master in a game is creating an adventure for your game for the players to run through and finding out what works and what doesn't work. Just being creative overall. Sometimes it's rather difficult to come up with your own adventures, whether it be to lack of time, maybe like writer's block or something. Sometimes it could be a little difficult, but there are published adventures out there that you could get your hands on and run for your game. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. So we're going to talk about the adventure anthology Fire for Lamentations of the Flame Princess. This book has 176 pages and a copyright of 2019. It was published by Lamentations of the Flame Princess, and all of the artwork in this book is in black and white, and it's pretty decent. So let's go ahead and look at that artwork. All of the artwork in this book is in black and white, and it's pretty decent too. And all in all, it goes a long way to setting a proper mood and tone for these adventures. But do be warned, some of the artwork in this book is rather gruesome, and there are some pictures of nudity. To use this book, what you're going to need is a copy of the Lamentations of the Flame Princess core book, and of course, a copy of this book. Now, this book is made up of 4 different adventures, each of which was published by themselves at one point, and were discontinued. So they brought them back, putting all 4 of them together in one book. And it's pretty cool. The first adventure in this book is called The Tower of the Stargazer. The Tower of the Stargazer is about a wizard's tower that everybody's terrified of because almost 100 years ago there was a mage that was just terrifying everybody, and he's since disappeared, and everybody's too superstitious to go up there and check the place out. And anybody that hasn't heard the tales of him are afraid because of all the lightning activity in the area. The adventure is chock full of traps and a bunch of nasty surprises. And it's kind of I know it sounds weird, it's kind of idea for a starting adventure for people. Also awesome for a one-shot. The likability of possibly people getting killed is very high. So you'll have to watch for that. But all in all, it's pretty good, especially if you like adventures with a lot of traps in them. The second adventure in this book is called The God That Crawls. And oh boy, it's about a cult that worships this thing, and it gives a history of what it is exactly. And I don't want to give away too much because I don't want to ruin any surprises for anybody that's going to run it or play in it. But basically, you wind up trapped in these catacombs below a church with this monster that cannot die. You can kill it, burn it to death, and it will not die, and it'll rejuvenate and come after you again. And it's an adventure where you're trying to escape, and there is a hoard of what could be considered treasure in here, and it all depends on how you look at it. And it's actually pretty cool. If you like some horror and so forth, it's a good idea. The third adventure in this book is called The Doom Cave of the Crystal-Headed Children. And if you don't like children, then oh boy, do I have an adventure for you. Now, as a one-shot, it recommends that you can just start them off at the front of the cave and they adventure in. Or if you want something more of that, a lead-in, or if you're adding it to an ongoing campaign, then you can start them off in a nearby town And in this town, there's something unusual going on. Go figure. Basically, there's like 100 women that all have 4-year-old children named Andrew that look exactly the same, but yet nobody else has ever seen or heard of these children. And the players will, of course, go and investigate. And inside the cave, they run into a mad mage who has come across some alien technology that's in the form of crystals and has been using it even though he doesn't know how it works, and has been creating these children with crystals sticking out of their head. And he plans to use them to take over the world at some point. But I'm not going to go too deep into it because I don't want to give anything away. But again, it's another adventure that's heavy with some traps. And if you screw up, you can get really messed up. And some of these traps will really change a character. So it's pretty cool. The final adventure in this book is called The Monolith from Beyond Space and Time. And it's kind of got an H.P. Lovecraft feel to it. Basically, there's this valley that shows up at different places at different times. And in the middle of the valley is a monolith. And you can enter the monolith and find some really weird stuff. In the valley itself, the monolith has given it effects that can really confound the characters. If you're looking for an adventure to really mess with your players' minds, then that's the one you want to go with. And it's a pretty neat book. It's got all the maps you need for the different adventures inside the covers, and it lists what adventure they go with. And there is a pull-out map for the God that crawls, and on the reverse side of it, they got some full-color artwork, which is really neat. But all in all, this is a really good book. You could easily switch things up in here to run it for another game system if you want, such as any edition of Dungeons & Dragons, Pathfinder, basic fantasy roleplay, whatever you're playing. It works best with Lamentations of the Flame Princess, but it'll work with just about anything if you want to. But be careful, because some of the stuff in here can be pretty lethal for a group, and everything in here would be great for a one-shot, but might require a little bit of thinking if you put it in an ongoing campaign, because you could really mess some stuff up in it. And that's about all I got to say for this book right now. Which brings me to 3 questions. Would I play a character to run in one of these adventures? I'm going to have to say yes. I like the idea of dark fantasy, and all of these would scratch that itch for me. Would I run these adventures? Yes, I would, and I definitely plan to. So my players better be careful, because they're coming. And would I recommend this book? I'm going to have to say once again, yes, I would recommend this book. Like I've said, you could switch things up and run it in another game system if that's what you're into, and play it in Lamentations of the Flame Princess, which is what it's written for. But it's a very easy conversion if you're playing it in a different system. And that's pretty much all I got to say for the Adventure Anthology Fire. Thank you for joining me at a look at this book, and hopefully you'll join me next time where we'll talk about something else. Bye.